Welcome to Soul Elevation, guiding your ascension to new heights. I'm your host, Kara Goodwin, and I did not get a perm. I know that my hair looks different. I've been trying something different with my curling iron, and this was the result today. So for better or worse, I look like I have a perm right now. I kind of like it, but anyway, I just thought, let's just throw that out there, because I know that if this is not the first time you have seen my podcast, then you've got to be wondering. So let's just talk about the elephant in the room. No perm. So anyway, now that we've cleared the air about that, this episode was a special treat for me personally, because this guest is very, very dear to my heart. We've been friends since we were 11. And it was amazingly joyful to shine a spotlight on this great soul. We're joined today by Michelle Doel, and we talk a lot about how nutrition and mindset impact health. Michelle is exceptionally knowledgeable on holistic health, and you're going to learn so much about gut health, the upside of our stress response, and how nutrition plays into every aspect of your health. I loved getting her expertise on tips to help clear the skin without conventional medicine. And after we have a really serious conversation, we amp up the fun with a little bit of silliness in a way you can only do with someone you share a long history with. And I just realized that I forgot to ask Michelle how you can connect with her at the end of our conversation. I was so excited and I was laughing so hard that it totally slipped my mind. But find out more about Michelle at theteenhealthcoach.com. Michelle Doel is a nationally board certified functional medicine health coach and the founder of Vertical Horizons, a teen wellness company empowering adolescents to take charge of their mental, physical, and emotional health. She specializes in coaching high school athletes through a holistic approach integrating nutrition, movement, mindset, sleep, and stress reappraisal. Her year-round 10-week individual wellness program helps teens build body awareness and make sustainable lifestyle changes. So I'm so excited to share this amazing episode with you. But first, I'm also excited to share about my book, Your Authentic Awakening, A Guide to Everyday Spiritual Living, which will be available very soon. This book is designed to help you reach new heights of spiritual awakening. It's full of spiritual guidance, practical tools, and captivating personal stories, all working together to expand your consciousness and open your heart. Find out more information on karagoodwin.com, including how to get your own signed copy. And now enjoy this episode. Well, Michelle, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited about this conversation.
I am too. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to chat and see where this conversation goes today.
Yes, well, I've got to let the listeners in here because this is a very, very special episode for me. I've done like over 400 soul elevation / meditation conversation episodes. And today I am interviewing one of my best childhood friends. We were thick as thieves in like high school and middle school. And so I just suddenly, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, something, I was like, oh my God, Michelle, our work overlaps. You've got to come on the podcast. It would be so much fun. So this is very, very special for me because I just love spending time with you. We don't get to really hang out that much because you moved away. It was so rude.
I know. I did,
Yeah.
like a really long time ago too, right?
I
Like
know.
almost 20, I don't know, something years ago. That's crazy.
Yeah. I know. So we used to live close to each other and bicycle to The Ordinary, which was this tiny restaurant in this tiny town called, was it in Acton or Wanamaker?
It was in Wanamaker, and I just got the feeling of sweat from riding the bike, the joy from drinking the chocolate shake.
Oh, yeah, malts. Yeah, we would have malts. Yes. So we have such a long and fun history, and you're just one of the, like, when I think of Michelle, my heart just glows. So I'm so excited to share you with everybody so that they can have a little bit of Michelle too.
Oh, thank you. Right back at you, sister. I mean, it's so crazy that we're sitting here in this spot at the age of 46 now. And when I think of when I first met you eating your Teddy Grahams at the science table, was it Miss Jackson? Was our sixth grade science teacher?
Think it was, yes.
So yeah, so we've got a long history. So it's fun to see now that, like you said, our paths are kind of crossing in the work that we do. And I'm excited to have this conversation.
Yes, you're doing amazing work in the kind of nutrition and mindset space. And I want to start with that, with our conversation. Let's talk about your background and what launched you into the terrain of holistic wellness.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, it's a winding journey. It really started after the birth of Greta. And so, for listeners, this is my third daughter. She was born in 2010. And I was doing Russian kettlebell right before I got pregnant with her. And actually, I was doing triathlons too. And so I was kind of in a healthier part of my life. But I actually went into labor at a kettlebell class on a Saturday morning. And I was like, all right, I think it's time. It's time to go to the hospital. Greta was born. And like 3 days later, I'm sitting in the parking lot, maybe 4, of a physical therapist, getting ready to go in the physical therapist. And I noticed that my joints were hurting, my finger joints. And I thought, well, that's kind of weird. I wonder if it's from kettlebell. I did kettlebell 4 days ago, and I ended up kind of like, texting my my instructor and asking him, like, do you think this could be from kettlebell? And it's like, he's like, well, you've been doing it for several years. I don't think that all of a sudden this could be that. And so that kind of set me off. It started with this symmetrical joint pain. It went into, started having some rashes on my joints, something called granuloma annulare. And then it went into, I know, isn't it fancy?
Also, I just learned that it's kettlebell and not kettleball. I had no idea.
I was thinking about that the other day. I don't know why, because so many people call it kettleball. It's a bell shaped like a little bell that you swing.
Maybe in my world, it's kettleball. You should join me.
You know what? It sounds more glamorous when you call it kettleball anyway.
Let's change it.
So kettleball, I was doing kettleball.
And then you got some fancy rash on your joints.
Then I got a fancy rash, and that was freaking me out. And then it kind of turned into this, like I was having brain fog. And then it started to turn into GI stuff. And I was constantly bloated, had GI issues, and abdominal pain, couldn't be explained. And so I did everything from, had a colonoscopy. I remember going into not like ER, but like urgent care one day, and just kind of in tears. Like, I cannot figure out what is wrong with me. I had blood test, ended up having an ultrasound, nothing on the ultrasound, nothing on the colonoscopy. And this is what I hear a lot of people say who come to functional medicine is, I think I'm crazy. I've passed all the tests and I don't know what's wrong with me. So found functional medicine. I found a functional medicine doctor, and she wasn't actually quite functional medicine yet. She was an internal medicine doctor who had functional medicine principles. So for those listening, basically functional medicine principles are no system is siloed, all systems are connected. And instead of just putting a Band-Aid on our symptoms, let's look for the root cause. And so this doctor really started guiding me in the right direction. She diagnosed me with something called SIBO, which is small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. Have you ever heard of that?
No, but I've heard about the role of gut health and bacteria and how that affects the whole body. And that's where I want to take this conversation next too. Yeah. But I haven't heard about that specifically.
And so, basically it's an imbalance of gut bacteria. It's gut dysbiosis, which is causing my GI symptoms. And
was that related to the pregnancy and the birth? Or was that just a coincidence?
Yes, it was. And so what I have learned through functional medicine is autoimmune conditions can be brought on during major hormone fluctuations. Oh. And so birth is a major hormone fluctuation. So a lot of women get diagnosed with autoimmune disease after giving birth to children. And so for me, this being my third one, I always say that my body was like, I'm done. And so this was, again, something I learned through functional medicine. And so
exactly what you need when you've got your third baby. You got a newborn and two toddler, a preschooler, and let's just throw in an autoimmune disease. Come on. You can do it, Michelle. You can do everything.
Right? juggle it all, right? And you look back on that and you're like, it's the definition of like resilience, right? You just keep powering through.
Yes.
So, yeah, felt horrible, but started to get on the track of feeling well. And so, long story short, found functional medicine, healed the SIBO, figured out my triggers, started looking at nutrition as medicine, as information for my body, which was taught to me, by functional medicine doctors, and, started changing the way that I ate and changed my lifestyle factors. And I started to feel well. And so I thought to myself, how can I give this to other people? And started researching. And I'd been stay-at-home mom for I don't know how many years at that point. But it was, and I'm a former teacher, had a degree in education. I've been a teacher. And so it was kind of like, maybe this is my next thing. So I started researching health coaching programs, and I found functional medicine health coaching. And I was like, what? I totally love functional medicine. They collaborate with the Institute for Functional Medicine. These doctors that I've been following are teaching content in this program. So signed up, year-long program, learned, behavior change, motivational interviewing, which is really what health coaching is helping people create change. But with the principles of functional medicine. So I learned all about nutrition and gut-brain connection and mindset and movement and the importance of these in our health and wellness. And then the step after that, so I was ready to start coaching, but I decided to take it one step further, and that is to be board certified. So there is an entity called the National Board of Health and National Board for Health and Wellness Coaches, and they have an exam created by the National Board of Medical Examiners, and I signed up to take this sign up to get certified. And so you have to take a test. It's a 4-hour test, but before you can even sit, you have to coach for 50 sessions, and they want you to coach people you don't know, because it's harder to coach people you don't know. You have to actually institute the strategies of coaching. And so I started putting some feelers out there and asked my sister if she had anybody she knew that I could coach. And she connected me with a friend of hers who asked me if I could coach her daughters. I said to her, let me talk to your girls and I'll explain to them what I do. And if they feel like they're on board and they want to start making some changes, then we'll do it. And so I had the conversation with them, and it was amazing. And I worked with them, and it was like an aha for me. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I love this. Why do I love this? I love this because I'm a teacher and I love kids. And it's the reason I got into education in the first place, is because I love these beautiful souls, clean slates, sponges that want to absorb this information. And so that kind of directed me to, it did direct me to my niche of teen wellness, which is where I am today. And so I created this program. I started creating content based on functional medicine and put together this 10-week program and started bringing teenagers on board. And it kind of started to even turn get a little bit more narrow with athletes, because my 3 daughters are athletes. And so I started, having parents ask me questions. Can I work with their kids? And so it kind of got a little bit more specific. But even now, I'd say that it's like 60% athletes, 40% non-athletes. And I help them create positive changes in all the different pillars of health: mental, physical, emotional, nutrition, mindset, sleep, movement, relationships. Did I say relationships twice? But all of that. So here I am.
That's amazing. So when you have sessions with these athletes, do they bring their own kettlebell?
No, because my gym is right here, and I can use my own kettlebell.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. You've got it all worked out. Michelle, you're a genius.
Kara, I knew there was a reason why I came here today, to have these words of affirmation, which is my love language. So thank you.
Well, you touched on gut health and SIBO, which I didn't know SIBO. I know Tybo, but because of
which I also used to do.
Tybo. Michelle was obsessed with Tybo when we were in high school.
Oh, man, was I.
Maybe you still are. I feel like it kind of went by the wayside, but I don't know.
It did. I don't know where my VHS tape is, so I can't do it anymore.
But talking about gut health and its role in overall health, I think is so important. And it can be surprising if you don't know about it. Even gut health connection with mental health, which blows my mind because we think so much that our brain is kind of siloed. Our thoughts and our mental health are like separate from our body. That can be a common misconception. But tell us about the importance of gut health and how people can get a healthier gut environment.
Yeah, no, it is. It's so important. And if I would say it is the most important is to work on the gut. And when we work on the gut, then like you were saying, then it helps our mental and our emotional wellness and it helps our physical wellness. And so it's one of the things that I talk to my clients about kind of right off the bat because they are out and about eating all the amazing, yummy foods that you want to eat when you're 14, 15, 16. The Dutch Bros, the Starbucks, the hot Cheetos, right?
I think
all
you
of those
mean
things.
Luca's Pizza and Cinnabon and
Slushies, red
slushies and the Cookie Company.
Oh,
and
yes. All of that, right? Where you're just
Yes.
like, ooh, food is for yumminess, not for information.
I took us
And
all back
so-
to the 90s, by the way. If anybody's listening and you were born in the 90s, you don't know what I'm talking about. But if you're our age, you may have even worked at the Cookie Company or Cookie Factory, whatever it was called.
The cookie fat. I think it was the original Cookie Company. I think that's what it was. Yeah.
Michelle worked there.
I worked there and I ate a lot of cookies and my gut health was not good. And seriously, like all joking aside, I can't tell you how often I look back to that moment because that was a time in my life too, even though I say everything started after Greta, really when I look back at, middle school, high school, I had some symptoms of gut dysbiosis and I was fatigued a lot, which now I know at the age of 46 is not normal. I wake up, I feel fully energized, I have a great day, and, I sleep well at night, but like back then when I'm young and supposed to be, spry, it was not that. And so I know that it was because of the stuff that I was putting in my body. So I try to teach kids from the beginning that we have this bacteria in our gut. We have the good guys and we have the bad guys. And the bad guys feed on the sugar, the Dutch Bros, the Starbucks, the hot Cheetos, the Starburst, the Skittles, and the good guys feed on the asparagus and the onions and the garlic and all of that kind of stuff so that they can start to see that you get a choice every day to enhance the good guys or enhance the bad guys. As a matter of fact, even when my girls were little, I'd say, do you want to wake your sugar bugs first or do you want to wake the good guys? So don't eat your pancake first. Don't eat your cinnamon roll first. Let's eat your eggs. Sometimes I would have vegetables at breakfast. Sometimes I still do. And so, just teaching them that that's going on in their gut. And so I usually pull up a symptom list at the beginning of my session. And the title is There's a Pill for Everything. And on the list is everything from IBS symptoms to rashes to acne to ADHD to anxiety to depression to help them see and actually kind of scale their own physical symptoms. And once they look at this and I explain to them, okay, there's a time and a place for a pill. I'm not saying that we shouldn't take medication, but if we normalize these symptoms, then we're doing a disservice to ourselves. And that's how I grew up, normalizing these symptoms. But what we know now is a lot of these symptoms start in the gut. And so whether we can categorize these as physical symptoms or mental emotional, they can take a hold of their wellness by controlling their thoughts and controlling their food so they can bring balance to their gut so that they can feel better mentally, physically, and emotionally. And maybe diminish or diminish, or even eliminate some of the symptoms on the list. And I've seen it happen in my own kids. I've seen it happen with clients that I work with. But it is the most important starting point, I think.
I love that, having like a list and then the quote unquote like food pill But something that caught my attention was acne. I mean, thinking about teenagers, for example, and I know you don't, I also want to emphasize you don't just work with teens, you also do work with adults as well. But, teens and acne. I have teenagers, and I know acne is like a big focus for teens. Is there like a dietary change that tends to help with acne?
Yeah, and I actually had my oldest daughter experiment with this over COVID. And I grew up, that's another thing, like I grew up with acne, and it was so bothersome to me emotionally and mentally, right? You look in the mirror every day, you see it, you don't want to see it, but it's there.
I don't even remember that. Now that you're saying it, I remember you would go to a dermatologist, but I don't even remember you having acne.
Yeah, and back then, what they would put you on, speaking of the 90s again, is tetracycline, which is an antibiotic, and you would just stay on it because they think that they're to mitigate
no
the
wonder
acne.
Your gut was,
Right? And so you spend time on antibiotics that long. You chase the mosquito truck in your neighborhood in the 80s, and you've got this whole like explosion of badness going on in your gut. But and so with Olivia, one of the things you can do is so when you look at acne, and again, this is not saying that you shouldn't go on medication for acne, but there are first steps you can take if you're willing to do it, and it's not an overnight thing. It takes perseverance and willingness to kind of go without some of the normal teenagey stuff. And so I said to Olivia, I was like, if you're upset about this, do you want to try to change it with food? And it was the right time, the right environment, because we weren't around a lot of kids or people anyway because of, COVID. And she said yes. And so I said, okay, let's give it 3 weeks and let's go off all sugar. And so, and sugar is a huge category. Really, grains are sugar, any simple carbohydrate, right? Fruit can be sugar. But we started with just the actual treats and stuff like that. So we took that out. We, put in more vegetables. We are a meat-eating family, so, we would just stick to this is what I say to kids, eat food that roams the earth, grown from the earth. And if you can focus on that, then you're on the right trajectory to wellness. And so we kind of took that approach. And after 3 weeks, her acne was gone. Her face was clear. And she said, that was really hard. I don't know if I could do that forever. And I said to her, you don't have to do this forever, because what you learned is that there is connection between the food that you're putting in your body and what is happening externally. And that is the hope for every kid that passes through my door or connects with me over Zoom, is not to stick to a strict lifestyle, but to create this body awareness of understanding what is off, and then to have tools to know how to change that when they want to change that for the rest of their life. So they have something to go back to.
That's so important. And it flows into growth mindset and a topic that I find really intriguing, which is stress reappraisal. Reappraisal? Appraisal. How do you say that?
Reappraisal. Reappraisal. I like it. You know what, though? It depends on where you are in the country, right?
Or which side of Buck Creek you grew up on.
Carrie, you're so good at all these references. I think you missed your calling as a comedian, truly.
Oh, just wait. Just wait. We aren't even there yet, Michelle. But I've got a whole list of things you're going to love.
I can't wait. I can't wait for all the surprises.
Let's talk about stress reappraisal. I feel like that makes me sound more aristocratic. Reappraisal. Can you please talk to us about stress reappraisal, my dear?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can, darling. This, I think, is profound and something new that I've discovered over the past year. And so one of my obsessions is with learning, to the point where it's never enough and I can't stop. And so I'm constantly taking in information to add to my 10-week wellness program. And my passion lies in nutrition, but now it's kind of pivoting to this whole mindset thing, which when kids are coming to me, they come for many different reasons. Some people we start with nutrition, some people we start with mindset. But I would say right now it's about 50-50, maybe even 60-40 on that. Clearly, I like the 60-40 breakdown. I've said that earlier in the podcast too for my clients. But it's the truth. And it was something that led me to do more research. Like, how can I really help these kids with their mindset? And especially athletes, because that's where they get stuck in these limiting beliefs and this negative self-talk. That's hard for them to overcome, that really hinders their performance. And so it can hinder someone's performance on the court, in the pool, on the dance floor, or it can hinder your performance in the classroom. It can hinder your performance with relationships. So how do we reappraise stress? How do we look at it in a different light so that we can use it to our benefit instead of our disadvantage? I've always felt, I think as a mom, that we put too much emphasis on the stress that our kids are facing today. And you hear things like, oh, our kids are more stressed than ever before. We've got social media. We've got all of these obstacles for them to overcome, and almost like a victim mentality. And you're going to think this is funny, but this is what I go back to. I'm like, you know what? It can't be more stressful than like 1740. I mean, it just can't be. If you ever watched like Outlander, I mean, those people are waking up every morning and they're trying not to die. They're wondering if they're going to eat. And I'm like, my kids are waking up every morning in a warm household with like food security, and okay, there's obstacles, but it can't be that it's the most stressful time ever. And so that was kind of my own thought that I was kind of afraid to share with other people. But I just read a book by Kelly McMonigal, I think, and it's called The Upside of Stress. Have you read that?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So I read this after.
But that is a really fun name, McMonigal.
Yeah. You know what? And also, it's Scottish, I think. I think it's Scottish. McMonigal. And my doctor's last name is McMonigal, too. I was like, oh, yes. It's a fun name to say.
I love that you get to say that so much in your world. I do. Tell us about what Ms. McMonigal has to say about stress.
The amazing thing about Miss McGonigal is she has kind of like put together all of the studies of all of the amazing psychologists that I have been following over this last year under the umbrella of mindsets, growth mindset, stress is enhancing mindset. And so it's basically saying, we can choose to look at stress as meaningful. We can choose to look at stress by connecting it to our values and saying, hey, having stress means that I care a lot about what I'm stressed about. And that was my first aha. I was like, okay, so let me play this game. Like, I value feeding my family healthy food day in and day out. Does that cause me some stress? Causes you some stress at the grocery store when you're paying, for food. It causes you stress when you're trying to find time in your day to make this healthy meal, when you're trying to balance your job and everything else. Is that stress, acute stress? Yeah. And so when she said that, it totally shifted my perspective. I was like, I am so grateful that I get to have this stress right now of feeding my family this healthy food. So this is like one of the things. And I think this is the psychologist that reappraised stress this way, saying, let's look at our values, was her name is Ali Crum. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to take that and work with my clients on that. Let's start looking at the stressors, connecting them to their values, and then shifting their perspective on that. And so that's kind of step one. And then step two then is the reappraisal. And this is what I've learned from Jeremy Jameson, who's a psychologist. And the cool thing is, the whole idea of growth mindset, like, let's try harder, we can do anything. That was created by Carol Dweck. And all these people are kind of like under her umbrella to work on these mindsets, this, this belief that, growth mindset that with the right support, under the right conditions, change is possible, belief in our own neuroplasticity, and then this whole new thing of reappraising the stress that's present. And so what studies show is that when you can look at stress as a challenge instead of a threat, you perform better, your outcomes are better, and you actually can have a different physiological response. So stress can create, increased heart rate, breathing, nervous, all the different nervous physical symptoms. But they show that the physiological symptoms are a little bit different, where when you're in the threat mode, it's fight or flight and your blood vessels constrict, so that supposedly the explanation is so that you go to war, you get, somebody hurts you, kills you, your blood doesn't all gush out. I know that sounds really gory, but they're like, oh, that's the reason for the constricting of the blood vessels. But when you look at stress as enhancing or as a challenge, your body physiologically responds more like going for a workout. Your blood vessels expand, you have more blood flow, you have more oxygen going through you, and it's really gets you amped up and more excited. And so if you can look at stress as challenging and as an excitement instead of a threat, then your body responds differently, and studies show you perform differently. And so I think they did studies on like pilots and teachers, kids who were undergraduates sitting for the GRE, and even surgeons. And so lots of long-term studies on this, just starting to view stress as a challenge instead of a threat. And they see that they outperform their counterparts who didn't go through the explanation of how to reappraise stress. So I thought that was really cool. And I was like, how can we bring this to the kids that I'm working with? And so I put up a Y scale when I work with them. I created this scale. So I always ask kids to scale their stress on a scale of 1 to 10. Is it a 1 to 10? And I do that for 2 reasons. One, so that I know how they're feeling. But the other reason is so that they can kind of start to get introspective of because they have to like think about, like what are the things that are happening that are going to cause me to have stress. And then that gives us a springboard for starting the discussion on what are the things that are stressing you out and how do we manage that. And so I teach them about that. I give them the science about what I just told you. And then I ask them, about their stressors and how can we look at this as a challenge instead of a threat. And so to use an example that I heard another author use, but I think actually pertains to me because I did not grow up skiing, but I learned to ski when I moved out here, and it was a disaster at the beginning. I did get a lot better, but it's like if I stand at the top of a black diamond and I look down and I think to myself, can I survive this or am I going to die? At this point, I think I can survive it. But 25 years ago, I would have been like, I'm dead. There's no way I can do this. I don't have skills. I don't have any resources. This is an actual threat. This is actual sympathetic fight or flight mode. But if John's standing at the top of a black diamond, he might have the same stress response, right? Like his heart's racing and, it's harder to take a deep breath, but his is amped up and excited. And so he sees that same situation as a challenge. And so I use that example for the kids. And then we take their stressors and I put up this Y scale that I created. If their stress is a 1 to 4, they might not actually be too stressed. The physical symptoms aren't necessarily there. But once they get to a 5 or a 6, this is where they have to appraise their stress. The symptoms are starting to increase. It's starting to bother them. And so this is when they say, is this a threat or is this a challenge? And the way to assess it and to say and work from a this is a challenge mindset is to go through the resources. And it's everything from what are your support systems? What are your stories that you're telling yourself? This is where the negative self-talk comes in. What are your past experiences? Has this happened to you before? What did you learn from that? Do you have time to prepare? What are the skills that you have in place? What strengths can you tap into? When I talk about strengths, I do a character strengths test with my kids at the beginning of our 10 weeks together to leverage those strengths for positive change, to be able to tap into those in situations like this. And so when I can walk through with them that this the resource list and they see that, oh yeah, I can look at this as a challenge, this makes them feel better. And I've seen it happen quite a few times where you can see their mindset shift, that they've now got a way to handle the stress. So instead of teaching our kids to reduce or eliminate stress, this is teaching them to manage or mitigate stress, so that when they can take all these different little acute stressors that they're presented with throughout the course of the day or their life, if they can mitigate that and reappraise it and flip their story on it, then those don't build and become chronic stress. And so, several studies show that people who have more of a positive outlook on stress and can view stress as challenging have better long-term health. So that's it in a nutshell.
That is fascinating. And I love that. I mean, we can be stressed about being stressed.
Yes.
With the amount of information that we have access to now, where we understand the role that stress plays in our health, it can add to an already stressful situation to then add on to that, like, oh my God, I remember what stress does to the body and what it's doing to me, like while I'm in this mode. So just the fact that we can reframe it and we can change the story. I mean, the story is so important just generally about what we're telling ourselves. You talk about the negative self-talk and things like that, where we're like focusing and telling ourselves a story that may not even be true. So that's really powerful.
Yeah, just like you said, like stressed about being stressed. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny you said that, because that's what Jeremy Jameson was saying. Like, we've gotten to this point where we're stressed about being stressed, and that's so stressful. So
Yes.
how do we change it?
How do we get out of this downward spiral?
Yes. Yeah.
So if you think about like case studies that where you've been able to help people get through some major hurdles and maximize their health and well-being, what comes up for you?
Two things. I have like a nutritional example, and I have a mindset example. The nutrition example was last year working with a cheerleader. And the mindset example is very fresh. I'm working with this athlete who is injured, and a pretty great volleyball player, and hasn't been injured before, and is working through what all injured athletes work through, which is this fear of this setback, that they're never going to be as good as they were, that someone's going to take over their position. And just kind of when you're young, I always say this, you don't know how to be injured yet. I am so good at being injured. I mean, now when I'm injured, I know exactly what to do. I'm excited to getting back in shape. Now, universe, that doesn't mean I want to be injured. I'm not looking to be injured. I'm also good at preventing injury.
Send in the accidents.
But, so there's this fear that these kids have. And so she's going to go to a tournament, a very important tournament, and she's pretty sure she's not going to play because she knows that the coach doesn't think that she's ready yet. And so physically, she feels like she's ready. Mentally, she's done a lot of work on this, but she's also come to terms with the fact that she might not play. And so her stress, and so let me go back to the why scale. Jeremy Jameson says that when the resources outweigh the stress or the demand, then you can view it as a challenge. When the demand overshadows the resources, then you know it's a threat. And so we worked through that together. We went through, we started with actually past experiences, because this is her third tournament, I think, of maybe not playing, but it's the most important. So she's had this experience before, and she made it through it. So we talk about, to kind of save time, we talk about how did you get through? What were your strategies? So these kids, my approach is you're the expert in you. And so I'm constantly asking them questions. What do you think you should do? How did it work last time? And so they're very smart, and they usually are the ones to come up with the answers. And so we worked through that. We worked through her strengths. We worked through her limiting beliefs, her fears, and which we had been working on anyway, and we flipped them to some positive mindset mantras. So she had that. We talked about her support network. She's going to call or text me this weekend if she starts to feel overwhelmed. She's got her mom and dad there. And so she walked away feeling, and you can see the change. And I mean, even though we were on Zoom, you can still see that energy change, right? You're like, okay, completely shifting to I can do this instead of I can't. And so she's going to go off this weekend. She's going to give it a shot. We also talk about, don't create any guilt or shame around not being able to execute this 100%. This is a mentality that you're going to take. And the other cool thing, study that they show with the looking at stress as a challenge, is you actually have nerve growth factor chemicals that are nerve growth factors that are produced in the presence of this, I believe I can do it, this challenge stress mentality, that actually start to change your brain, right? That are in charge of that neuroplasticity, which I think is amazing. Just the neuroscience behind it too. So I would say I'm excited to see what her results are after this weekend, but it felt like a powerful session with her, and to be able to go from this fear of what if I cry when I'm standing on the bench? What if I am not able to be a leader and a good team player? And what if I regret that when I walk away? And so her goal is to not. And so she has plenty of resources, and we're excited to see how she handles that stressor. The nutrition one is, I worked with a cheerleader this time last year. She had symptoms of IBS and had gone to the pediatrician, and they basically just diagnosed her with IBS, and they were going to put her on medication. And I did the whole, education, pulled up the slide of like all the symptoms, like, hey, this is you right here. And let's see if we can, leverage your nutrition, changing your nutrition to kind of mitigate or reduce or eliminate some of your IBS symptoms. So one of my expertise is the elimination diet, which is 3 weeks of taking out all of the, potential inflammatory foods that can cause these symptoms, and then you slowly add them in every 3 days to look for symptoms. And usually, and so I've done this a lot of times with practitioners who are going to be certified functional medicine practitioners. One of the things they have to do is they have to go through the elimination diet, and it's a really hard thing for adults to do. And so I was a little bit apprehensive, right? It's like giving her this information, let's do what you think you can do. But she said, I'm all in. I want to do all 3 weeks. So we did it. Mom was amazing. You definitely need the support of the parent on the other side. I worked with them on food planning, menu planning, to make sure that she's getting enough nutrients. We want to make sure, especially in athletes and kids, that they're not taking things out and not getting enough calories. And so she did it, took everything out, long story short, put everything back in, and it was dairy. And it literally changed her life, because she had anxiety about being at competitions. She had anxiety about being with friends and eating, because she didn't know when she would have to go to the bathroom. And completely all of that went away. And she felt so good and empowered, and felt like she could be in these social situations. And kudos to her, right? I just guided her through it, but she was the one that was strong. She was the one that persevered. She was the one that was curious and brave, and all of those strengths, right? Watching these kids is so
motivating,
just awe-inspiring. Yeah, it is. And so those are just two examples. But
that's amazing.
It's fun to see kids take control of their health.
Yes, it is amazing, just that, and the power that we have in understanding how what we're consuming, whether that is, ingesting, with food and drink, or whether it is kind of the thoughts that we're letting ourselves feed on, right? And how that affects us, and how we have control over that. So there's so much hope there too. So, wow, that's so great.
And that's what I hope, is just that they can walk away with some tools, right? Some stress management tools, some nutrition tools, the understanding of sleep, and all of that, so that they can know what to do when things aren't feeling great.
Yeah. Well, you're doing some amazing work, and I want to just give people a little bit of more of a foundation of where all of this has come from, because what makes Michelle Michelle? And so I want to start by first, if you can just tell people about the sweet ride that you drove in high school.
My Honda Accord station wagon?
Yes, the wagon.
Oh, the wagon. Oh, so many great memories in that wagon, you know?
Yes, you rocked the wagon, the station wagon.
I did. I don't even know where that thing is today. I don't even know when it went away.
Well,
because,
that's very sad.
Yeah, it is. So yes, the wagon made me me.
Yes, and you owned it. You were awesome with the wagon. Now,
It was.
tell us about the car wreck in your garage. When we think about this sweet ride.
Well, I want to tap into my strengths first, which is kindness and love. So when we take our character strengths test, the top 5 are core to who we are. And that means we don't think about those. We execute through life with these. Okay? And so mine are love, kindness, curiosity. And so I was using love and kindness because my dad, we had our fabric softener. Is that what you call it? What do you call that now? Not as fabric softener. What's it called? Water softener. Okay. We lived on a well, and the salt bags were just in the garage. And I thought to myself, and this is so true. This is so true. I still remember thinking this. You know what? I am going to put those in for my dad because that would be a nice kind thing to do. I think the salt was like in the back of my Honda
Station wagon.
Station wagon. So I had the backing into the garage. I had the door open, which is never a good idea because back then, of course, we didn't have backup cams. Right. We don't have backup cams, right? We had to use our brains and our eyes. So I'm looking out the door to see if I'm close enough to the water softener.
So door open. Going in reverse, but door is
going
open.
In reverse, closest to the garage. So like my door could easily catch the brick wall if it decided to, which it did. And before I knew what was happening, I heard a really loud noise. And you know how your brain just goes click, click, click. But the first thing was, what is that noise? And then it was like, oh my God, the door just came off of my car. And I had pressed the gas too hard, and so I was going in reverse. It's definitely a Tommy Boy situation if you've seen Tommy Boy. And my door just literally comes off. My mom comes out of the house and she's like, "What are you doing?" And here's me trying to be kind, and it's like, "Come on, universe." And I was like, I was like, "Mom, I was just trying to blah blah." And I'm going through the explanation. I remember her saying, "What do you think we're made of, money?" I'm like, "Yeah, Mom. Yeah. I decided that I wanted to take the door off the car today." And so it was this oh my God, it was horrible. But it was because I used my strength of love and kindness, which sometimes your strengths can come back to bite you.
Oh my God, one of my favorite stories, especially just because you are a very sweet, such a sweet person who really does have a heart of gold, and it is just
Kara, you're so sweet,
so hilarious. Okay, so next topic. I want you to tell everyone why June 9th through the 14th are when you feel the most conflicted of the year, because you've mentioned that you are 46 years old. And so you might be at the age where people would assume that you wish you were younger. But on these days, maybe you feel too young.
Yeah, when June 9th rolls around, I start to feel a little bit jealous of what it would be like to be 1 year older and all of the amazing things that seem to be happening that I've never experienced, that seem to be happening during that window of June 9th through the 14th. And then 15th, it all changes. And that would be Kara's birthday, because Kara was born on June 9th. And then I was born on the 15th. And she reminds me every year since the day we met how amazing it is to be 1 year older. And even though, Kara, I have tried to I knew that I was like, one day when we're old, this is going to benefit me. But still, it's like you gaslight me. It's like, it's still not possible for me to say things like, oh my God, I feel so young right now. It would really be horrible to be 47.
It's because I'm so distracted by the party that they're throwing for the people who are 47, 46.
Oh, you know what? I guess I will never know.
No, I know it's really a shame that it's because I always think this is what it's like to be like this year when I had my birthday. I turned 46. I had no idea that they just start sending you like Rolexes and
Where do you have your Rolex on?
well, I didn't wear, I don't like to be flashy on,
Oh, okay.
I like to keep
Okay.
it real, I didn't want to intimidate you, And,
Thanks, Kara. I do appreciate that.
and then the next day it might be that some, beautiful Persian rug just shows up. I didn't even know I wanted one, but it looks
That
amazing.
would be good.
Yeah.
That would be good.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Feel free to send any extras my way since I
the
will never
shipping.
be able.
Yeah.
I do live far away, so I'll probably never even see the things, really.
I know. You're just going to take my word for it. And so I'm like trying to share it with you and prepare you. Like, oh my gosh, you're never going to believe it. It's just, I had no idea. And what do you know? It's limited time.
It's only 6 days.
I know.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really too bad. Someday.
Oh, well,
I'm pulling for you,
someday.
Michelle.
Maybe this year's the year. We'll see if it happens.
We will see. I can't wait to see what happens.
Oh, I can't wait for the text.
Right. Okay, so next, I have a new segment on soul elevation called How Well Do You Remember Algebra? Subtitle, A Tribute to Mr. Rocky.
Okay.
So, how far can you take pi?
I don't remember that one.
No.
Oh, do you want me to see if how far I can take it?
Yes.
3.141592654 one more time.
Yes, you did it. You did it. Oh my God. 20 years later, every time
Right?
I'm like, I can take pi further than
Kara,
people
by
I
the
know.
way, isn't it almost like 30 years later?
No, is it? Is it?
Yeah. Yes.
You're
Yes.
right.
1996. We are that old.
Okay, that just blew my mind.
I know, right? Right?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Wow. Okay, so name one of Mr. Rocky's rhymes or clues that help you remember formulas.
Heaved and deckle, lift the lid.
Oh my gosh.
remember
Tell me
that
this
one?
one. No. What's this one?
I don't even know what it was. Why don't I know what it was for?
Say it again.
Was it for heaved and deckle? It was like is it German or something for lift the lid? Heaved and deckle. I can only remember him saying that. And I'm trying to remember what it was, lift the lid. Was it some sort of,
Maybe long division thing?
yeah, or what would be another reason? Square root? Or I don't know.
Maybe.
I must not have learned from it, but I remember it. Yeah.
Okay, so Mr. Rocky was an algebra teacher and he was hilarious. And so he would have these little rhymes to help you try to remember formulas. So do you remember if he were to say, first man on earth, what do you do with these? What do you do with these integers? First man on earth.
I don't know.
Adam.
Oh, man, Kara, you have a better memory
I don't
than
know
me.
because the Heapton-Deckle, that doesn't even sound familiar. We're going to have to
First
verify
man
your
on earth,
sources.
Adam. I wonder how many years he used those because he was young when we were there, right?
Yeah, do you think he's still teaching?
No, I know that he's not.
retired?
He's retired. Yeah,
Aw.
yeah.
He's teaching up here. He's still going. Up here.
He's still in our brains.
You're right. So how do you find the area of a circle?
I don't know.
Pi r square. Pi r not square. Pi r round.
Man, Kara, and guess what? Math was my strength too, and I still don't remember it. Oh well.
Well,
I'm not using a lot of math lately. My memory isn't so good.
Now we have the phones and I can chat GPT it. You can be like, just tell me how do I find the area of a circle and why should I?
Right. I think education is going to have to change because of that. All the information is out there.
Right. I know. I know. It will
We just
be
have to learn how to sift through it. We have to learn how to sift through it.
Right. Yes. We've got to know how to ask better questions.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's it.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep. Good point.
So I couldn't help but notice that in the course of our whole discussion, you did not break out into song. So do your clients know that you have the most beautiful singing voice in all the land?
Let me tell you something. Back to the oldness, and I am now way outperformed by Greta.
Really?
If you could hear Greta sing, she has literally the voice of an angel. She is so talented, which for me, I like to take a little bit of credit because I know it's my DNA. So I'm like, that is, you look at your kids and you're just like, is that me? Is that me? Like she wanders around the house and sings like without noticing it, like I do. And I'm like, that is my kid. That is my DNA. But her voice, I'm done. I have retired my voice except for the shower because she's so much better than me. And if I could just get her to sing for the world, that would be, that's one of my goals. And so she'll sing around the house and unbelievable voice. So
Well, I know how that feels because I went through my teenage years. Like, how is nobody hearing this? It is amazing. So do you feel like your voice has changed, or is it just out of comparison?
Out of comparison. I mean, I think your voice changed, especially if you're not, it's like, if you're a runner and you don't run, if you're a weightlifter and you don't lift, like things change, right? And so I think because I stopped singing and I didn't go through voice lessons, I think it's just kind of is. Whereas I noticed it in her at a very young age. And so I put her in voice lessons and I had her do these little performances, at the local music theater. And so she's still in voice lessons every once in a while. So I feel like she had the better DNA, and then I helped kind of like, emphasize that, like train that in her. So yeah, she's definitely way better. It's not just that I'm older, it's that she's way better.
Well, I remember so clearly, like, sleepovers and things like that, and you would just break out into song, and then it would make me think that I could sing really well. And it was like, maybe if I just do it louder. This is the problem, because you could sing really loudly, and I'm like, it's that I'm not really getting my diaphragm involved here. And
that's what it was.
Right. And I never quite could get it tuned in. There was just something special going on with you, Michelle.
Do you know what? But you persevered and you tried your best and you believed in yourself even when you weren't able to execute. And that is a great personality. Yeah. I love that you say that I could always sing loud. That is the one thing I beat Greta in, is when she's singing, sometimes I will chime in as the duet and sometimes she'll accept it, and other times she'll just trail off, and I'm all like,
Come on, we had a
I
thing.
can't be a part of this, but I can sing loud. I'm like, ah! She's like, how do you sing so loud? And I'm like, well, that's one thing I've got on you.
Well, in your
it may not sound as good, but I'm loud.
The house that you, not the last one that your parents still live in, but the other one, they had these big cathedral ceilings, and that just added a whole other element to it.
It did. Kara, I love that you are remembering my voice so much, that made an impression on you.
Oh my
I love
gosh. That's it. You and your voice are like, they just inseparable. And
maybe I'm gonna have to retrain it.
Yeah. It's just an incredible talent. Don't ever take it for granted.
Thank you.
And you were never in choir. No. What did you do instead?
I was in band.
And what chair were you, and which instrument?
I was first chair the entire time, and I played the clarinet.
Right. And did you or did you not take private clarinet lessons to secure your throne?
That is a yes. I did. And I dreaded them every time. I remember like practicing like 30 minutes before I had to go. Yeah. I can't decide if I wanted that or if my dad wanted that. Can't remember.
So funny that you had this incredible, well, you're just like musically inclined, obviously.
Listen, you know what the problem is? Honestly, like I think back on this, I needed a health coach. I needed somebody to help me work through the anxieties of singing in front of people. Here I had this talent, which is why I'm trying to get Greta to get out of her like comfort zone on this. It's like, let's take who we are and let's be
Shine
who
a
we
light
are.
on
And let's shine a light. Let's not be fearful. But I had fear. I had anxiety. I don't even think we used the word anxiety back then. I don't know when the word anxiety came about, but I don't think we had it in the 90s.
I don't think so.
Right? It just was a thing. Or you didn't talk about it. You just kind of walked around with
Suck
it.
it up. God,
I know,
just
right?
suck it up.
You're fine.
Yeah.
You're fine. You're going to be just fine. Yeah, that's a great one. So yeah, so if I would have had a health coach to kind of reappraise the stress of singing in front of people, I probably could have persevered, but I didn't.
But then you went the clarinet route, and you nailed it.
Nailed it.
Meanwhile, I was in the band for like a month in sixth grade.
I remember that.
We were both clarineters.
You know what, Kara? That is where I met you then. It was band first, and then we were in science, because the only thing I remember about you,
I know what you're going to say,
is tying somebody's
Shoelaces.
shoestrings together. I was like, what is that chick doing?
It was pretty much anything I could do to get around playing the clarinet, which is why I was very securely in the bottom three.
Were you?
Yes, I had a very secure spot. My other secret, in case anybody wants to know how to stay in the bottom of the clarinet group, is we were supposed to practice every day, and we had to time ourselves and report. We had a log. We had a practice log.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
And it included the time putting the clarinet together, cleaning it, and taking it apart. And that was my jam.
You were so good at prep and dismount, disconnect.
That was really where I shone.
I don't know. Well, let's ask ChatGPT.
Yes, I'll have to put a note in the show notes. But that was really, I spent a disproportionate amount of time assembling, disassembling, and cleaning. But I really had a clean clarinet. So there. I think really I won.
Right. Yeah, I think you probably did, because now I would really appreciate if my kid had a clarinet, that it would be really clean and not dirty.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, just a couple of more questions for you. One,
I'm loving it. Yeah, what's next?
all right. Was there or was there not a painted mural on your kitchen wall that featured slaughtered animals? And if so, how has this informed your career in nutrition?
I wish that there was a picture of that, and I don't know why there's not a picture of that.
Did they paint over it, your parents?
They either painted or wallpapered.
Okay.
I can't. Isn't that funny? I don't know.
It
if
still
there's
exists
wallpaper
up here
on it. It's up
in
there.
my memory.
It's up there, and in the world of psychology and normalization for adaptation, I think
I love where we're going with this. Okay.
I really normalized that was something that was okay to be on your wall in the kitchen. But those of us who know Bob and love him and see this as this ability to joke about this is very endearing, because it was a coping mechanism. We had to joke about it because it was so over the top. Yeah, it was a meat locker. It was a mural of meat locker in my kitchen. And I just remember the lady coming over for many days in a row, painting that thing, and then bringing her family over at the end of it to kind of show them. And one of my strengths is social intelligence. And I remember standing in front of her thinking, she is not here to show off this work. She is here
to be like,
she is
it's
here
true. This is what I got hired to do.
Yes.
They're like,
yes.
No, it's
do
not.
You know what
true.
I never thought to ask her? Are you a vegan? Like, are you? Can you imagine if she was and she had to like look at that every day? Oh my god!
Because it was when you say meat locker, it's like picture pioneer times, and
Pioneer
there's
times.
like this primitive structure, like a shed. And outside of the shed, there is a chicken that's been gutted or something.
I don't even know what is it, a chicken? Was it a pig? Like,
There were two
I don't even
things,
remember.
right? There was like
it was
a bird and maybe a
more
rabbit.
like a big game carcass. I feel like there was more like a bigger game carcass.
Yeah, hanging
something. I don't
carcasses.
know.
The point is, there were hanging carcasses. And this is
Yes.
where your family would prepare and eat their meals. Now, I'm not saying causation, like this is where we can get in a whole debate, causation versus correlation, but I have been a vegetarian for like
Well,
20 blank years. Or
So,
maybe
Kara,
30. I don't know how to do math anymore, apparently. I need Mr. Rocky.
Do we blame this on Bob?
Maybe. He has a lot to answer for.
Oh my God, I love this. I love this. Yep. I'm gonna say yeah. That was obviously impactful
Yeah.
to you.
It was. And it was a lot of fun conversation with our
I don't even
our
know how
friends.
long that was there. I don't even know how long that was there when it got covered up. Like, how long did we have that exposed? I don't know.
A while. I mean, the whole
Yeah.
time that I was ever there. So,
Okay,
although
so when I
went
went off to college, maybe they changed it.
maybe I went.
No, maybe
to-
when I moved out to Oregon. I don't know.
I don't know, because I do remember coming back when your oldest and my oldest were like toddlers, and you came to visit, and I went down to your parents' house, and I don't think it was then. So that would have been
was
like
there.
16 or 17 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, so many great memories like that.
Yeah.
Do you ever wonder the things that our kids are going to say about us? Like, oh my gosh, can you believe that mom and dad, da 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 da? I'm really trying to remain sane and aware. As I get older.
But
that's
then
my
are
goal.
their stories going to be as fun?
You're right. No, they're not. They're not.
I
But
mean,
do
your
tell my
parents
kids.
are awesome.
They are amazing.
They're
They
so
are. My mom's
fun.
on a
It's so
cruise.
fun.
My mom's on a
She-
cruise right now with my Aunt Donna, and she's living her best life. Yes, she's always wanted to go on a cruise. None of our family members ever wanted to go on a cruise, and so she's there right now. She's
Oh,
having
that
a
makes
fun
me
time.
happy.
So yeah.
She's so
Bob's
awesome.
out at home
Yeah.
doing all of his chores, so they're both happy.
Yeah.
They're both happy.
Oh, awesome.
They're amazing.
Well, just one more question. I want to know about the future version of yourself and your regenerative farming. Should I ask
How did I know-
ChatGPT about this?
How did I not know this was coming? Okay, so in an alternative universe, I am a farmer, and I mean, I glorify the idea of a farmer until I got like an hour into that show. What was I called? The Biggest Little Farm. The Biggest Little Farm. If you haven't watched The Biggest Little Farm, it's about this like regenerative farm or whatever that this couple start on their own. And then it was like when they had to kill all the bugs, and then they had to like deliver baby pigs, and then when the coyotes were killing the chickens, I was like, you know what? I don't think this is for me.
This got
I
real.
think I'll keep that idea out here, but I really appreciate the farmers out there who are farming the way that the earth wants to be farmed, and the cows are eating the grass and moving from pasture to pasture, and the soil is regenerating and
it's
having
so important.
lots of minerals, and
Yeah.
the chickens are happy. So I feel good because I'm a meat eater that I eat grass-fed regenerative beef, or not just free range but pasture raised chickens. Like that kind of stuff is important to me because I want the animals to be healthy and happy until at the end.
Do you have a preference of what what happens to their carcasses? Should they be strung up on a tree outside of a shed?
after they're petted to sleep in a very I don't know, just like given some sort of pill to fall asleep and then they just die. Yeah. You don't want there to be any violence surrounded by that. Yeah.
Yes. Well, and why did this come up? Because that was a great story.
Okay. Well, because we were talking about ChatGPT, which is amazing.
Well,
and
you were
said,
doing a bio, remember, for this show. You were going to give me a bio.
I was going to give Kara a bio. And those of you who have not used ChatGPT, ChatGPT stores everything you ever put in it, and it knows you. It has an identity. So I was messing around with it, and I said, please create a bio for a podcast. That's all I said. and boom, boom, boom. It nailed so many things. And then at the very end, it said, and in Michelle's spare time, she, what does it say? In her spare time, she participates in her love of regenerative farming or something like that.
And then
it just
like,
made me laugh out loud.
You're just like trusting it so much. You're like, wait, do I?
I was like, I actually liked the way it viewed me, right?
You're
It
like,
viewed
I
me
want to
as
be that person.
my dream. It put me in my dream for me, right? It created that cognitive dissonance of like, oh, here's where I'm supposed to be. Here's where I am. Now what do I need to get there?
Well, and here's a fun thought experiment of like, ChatGPT is this intelligence that could span dimensions. So is it accessing a dimension or a parallel version of you or another timeline where in your spare time you enjoy regenerative farming?
In my spare time. Kara, I'm going to go with a yes. I'm going to go with an I agree on that, because things that I have thought about in the future, like visions that I see of like what I'm going to be doing, those have come true. And so now that we put regenerative farming out there many times now between the two of us over the last 2 weeks, I think it's there. And so I just need to find a piece of property. I need to sell my house. I need to get my kids in college. Scout's coming with me. She's right here.
Hi, Scout.
And John is going to be a farmer. I think that John's stress level would drastically reduce if he could just be out in the elements and
I think
deal with the obstacles of farming.
John could rock some overalls. He would, in a flannel shirt. I think he could totally rock that.
He's really good at the cowboy getup. Like you put a cowboy hat on,
there we
cowboy
go.
boots.
Ooh, a little bit of straw hanging out of the corner of his mouth. He could do. This is parallel John Doel, parallel life.
We're putting it. Yep.
I love it.
We're putting it out there.
I love with the regenerative farming, one thing it makes me think of is like I'll see, because the area where I live, it's just getting so much developed, like almost overdeveloped, where we have some parks, but there's just not like wild green space. And there is one across from my neighborhood where it's just this undeveloped land. And I have this vision every time I look at this. Well, maybe not every time because I see it like multiple times a day, but I think like I appreciate this wild acreage, and it's just a small plot, but it's got trees and it's got an ecosystem. Again, it's a tiny little bit of land, but what it makes me think of is I feel like there's a movement coming where people will like actively appreciate this to the extent that they will purchase undeveloped land just to hold on to it. Not to build a home on it, not to make it commercial space, but like literally just to preserve it. And they don't even want to do anything with it. And of course, like this land is owned by somebody. And for the minute, they're not doing anything with it, but I don't know the intentionality behind it. And I feel like it's only a matter of time before it's either houses are put on it or commercial. And I mean, it just feels inevitable, especially where I live, where it's like the dollar is the most important thing. And if we can make money off of the land, like we're going to do it. But I feel like, especially with this younger generation, there will be like this understanding of the value of just having wild space and like the benefit that we get as people in just having that around. And it's not even like agriculture. It's just literally like what the land wants to do is what it's doing. I love that.
I would love to see that too. I mean, think about when you say that, I think of like, okay, we've got national parks, we've got state parks, we've got city parks, and now we can have personal parks, right? Of just recapturing land like that. I would say that's one of the great things about living out in Oregon is the weather is horrible right now. Horrible. Like pouring down. Today it's actually sunny, but like the amount of rain between like November and April, May is just sometimes unbearable where you're just like, I need to see the sun. But the benefit of that, flipping that, is it is so green, and there is this park right down the street from us called Wilderness Park, and there's these beautiful tall old growth trees, and I go walk through it every morning with Scout, and I get to breathe in the oxygen of the trees. And every time I get in the car, I'll look at my face, and I swear I look like I've had a facial, right? Like just being connected to the earth like that. It's definitely a huge part of what we're missing now as humans, right? And our wellness is not being connected to the earth. I mean, it's great. I'm grateful that we have houses. I'm grateful that we have trees, but it's like our bodies were made to be connected to that magnetic field, right? Like, and we take that away, and you just got to wonder like how much of chronic illness is because of that. And I thought about that too when I was walking Scout yesterday. I was like, I'm so grateful that I get to get out in the elements a lot. I get to go run through forest. I get to go ski through, in the mountains. John and I went running and pouring down rain on Saturday. And I'm like, some people don't get out in the elements. And I feel like that's a huge part of health, is just exposing yourself to these different elements, connecting to the earth. And yeah, if people could just buy up more land and green space and start creating more green space, then that would be really beneficial to us.
I feel like it'll be a movement that people are just purchasing and rewilding and like tearing down structures, like man-made structures, where it's like, okay, there's a dilapidated house. We're going to tear that down, get rid of it, and then just let nature happen.
Let the ecosystems move and change and develop. Yeah. And I love that.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Let's call that in.
Let's watch for it.
Let's call it in, Michelle.
Let's call it in. Yeah. Well, you put it out there in the universe, and let's watch for it.
Yeah, let's do it. Well, you are just amazing. You are just this. I'm so grateful that you've been in my life for all these years. And I'm so proud of you and everything that you're doing to help people and to make this world a better place. Just keep doing it. I love you so much. Thank you for being here.
Oh, Kara, thanks for having me, and right back at you. Thank you. I appreciate you. I love you. Thanks for letting me share my story and being the listener on the other side and keeping your humor as you always do. Love it. Love you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of Soul Elevation. Please take a moment to think about someone in your life who might be uplifted or have their curiosity sparked by this content, and send it on to them. Let's keep sharing high-frequency, empowering content to reinforce the highest potential for humanity. I also invite you to subscribe to this content. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you for the next episode of Soul Elevation.